So, hello and welcome back yet again to another exploration video. And this one has the potential to be longer than a lot of them that I've done because, well, I'm trying to actually be better at this. And also because I have just found out so much stuff, and the area that we're about to go into is one of them that is just full of little nooks and crannies and lore and all sorts of cool stuff. So, without further ado, let's go and explore Duskwood in World of Warcraft. Now, as last week we were in the exciting Westfall, I have put us right here at the edge of Westfall and Duskwood, going across this little bridges of Madison County looking bridge, and into Duskwood. Now, one really cool thing that you will notice as we travel through Duskwood is, and hopefully we can do it, and if I have to, I will even make it darker, is just how dark and gloomy but really cool Duskwood is. And hopefully we will see it as we're going, but one creepy little factor that they added in is a lot of times, there they are, as you are traveling through Duskwood, little eyes will peek at you from the bushes. And if you happen to be a hunter, specifically a Beastmaster hunter, and you interact with those eyes, there is a spirit beast battle pet that is a lightning fox. He is very cool. I do not have him on my hunter yet. I say yet because I will get him one day. He's on about a 6 to 8 hour respawn timer, and there's only one in any Duskwood at any one time, but he is very, very cool. Now, Duskwood, way back in the day, used to be known as Brightwood, and it was a section in the south central of Azeroth, just south of Elwyn Forest, and it used to be Brightwood, and unfortunately, now it is beneath an everlasting night. It was the fell magic that was unleashed by Medivh upon his death, and it transformed what used to look a lot like Elwyn Forest into this land of gnarled trees and black fog. There is a slight mitigating factor in Duskwood, and that is the Twilight Grove, which is a connection to the Emerald Dream. But that, I think it might occasionally have a world boss in it, but pretty much now it's just an archaeological site. Now, Duskwood is pretty much an abandoned area. Everything is pretty darn messed up. And I don't think it still works this way, but it used to be. Nope. It used to be if you triggered an AoE attack in any of these houses in Raven Hill, you would be instantly killed by the unseen, which you could only see if, I think, you were a warlock or a priest, and they were just NPCs that would instantly kill you, which doesn't seem to happen anymore, but darn, that's cool. Also, if you happen to be an RPer and you would like to live in Raven Hill, there are 2 little tents. You can't really sit down in the chairs. They're not interactable, so you have to kind of just pretend sit in them. But, you know, hey, it kind of works. But there are 2 tents here. They have each of them a little bed and a table, and I think they're kind of cool. You know me, I am always looking for a house. That is always my thing, and most of the houses in this area are, well, they're a little sad, but you know, it is what it is. There's also a flight point here, and you can also meet Jitters, who is a holdover from old WoW, and you can interact and have all of the questing with him. Now, if you are a pet battler, and you have unlocked the pet battles, there is a pet battle up here in the Ravenhill Cemetery that can be a little bit tough. This guy has nothing but spiders. If you have mechanical pets, you will make short work of his spiders, and it is kind of cool. Now, something that I didn't realize until I looked it up on Wowhead is this house right here, the Forlorn Row. Now, I did know that there is a rare spawn NPC that will patrol the area, and it used to be, although I guess it's not so much anymore since I do see the quest marked, but it used to be that you had to go up here and you had to fight off all these flesh eaters, and you would interact with this blood-soaked hat. I think there might also be some blood-stained clothes downstairs, if I am not mistaken. Excuse me, Mr. Flesh Eater. Nope, no blood-stained clothes. But you would interact with this blood-stained hat, and then go over here to where you see this quest marker, and there's a weathered grave, and when you examine it, you notice that it's looking kind of disturbed. And it is the grave of Morgan Laidmore. Alright, and it kind of looks like somebody crawled out of this grave, and there's a whole mystery quest. Oh, and there is this undead Morladium. He used to legit mess people up. He was a elite that had a very high aggro range and wanders. And if you notice, he also seems to be mourning or something at this grave, and that was the little mystery. He paths through this area and through the graveyard. And if you go to Darkshire, which is the other big city in Darkshore, or in Duskwood, sorry, then you'll find out that Morladian is the person who crawled out of this grave, the grave of Morgan Laidmore, and you find out his whole extremely tragic story about how he went off to war, and while he was out at war, his wife and 3 daughters were supposed to evacuate to Lakeshire, but they didn't make it, or at least 2 of his daughters and his wife didn't make it. And when he came back from war, he was so... At first he refused to believe that his wife and family were dead. And then when he did, he took his sword, and he was a Knight of the Light. He was a paladin. He was supposed to be, you know, defending the land, and he was just so in his grief, he started hacking with his sword at the graves of his wife and his children. And when the caretakers of the cemetery came to stop him, he turned his blade on them. And then the next morning, when he realized that he had taken the lives of these innocents, he turned his sword upon himself. And because he was a murderer, they buried him out here, and he resurrected himself, and now he is an undead who eternally wanders, attacking anyone who gets in his path. So that is the tragic story. And I thought that was honestly a really interesting little story. Now, also down here, we will just kill this Tomb Guardian, because down here World of Warcraft has a lot of catacombs and crypts, but the catacombs down here are kind of based upon the catacombs that are below Karazhan. And Karazhan is a big raid, and it was originally supposed to be bigger, and back in classic World of Warcraft, people figured out how to glitch under Karazhan to go down to these catacombs that this place is kind of based off of. And if you look around, it is a huge catacomb. Look at all these guys as they're throwing their bones at me, throwing some bones at me. So rude. Poisoning me. We will loot that at some later point. But you have this really big section here. Kind of cool. And in most, especially open world areas, that would probably be it. But no, you've got an equally large section. I mean, you can use this all? No, it's not. As I run through all the poison. Thankfully, it doesn't really hurt me. You can go down another level, and you have even more rooms. Now, if you are doing this at level, as a low-level player, and you get lost down here, there are a lot of quests that will send you down here. And if you're going to do it, I would suggest that you do the quests in this area actually with help. Because, oh my goodness, is it big. But over here you have the actual spirit of Mordant Fell, the Wandering Knight. And you're going to have to kill him in the quest to finally finish the quest. And that is sort of the culmination of that quest chain. And it's really cool because it turns out that his only surviving daughter is in Darkshire. Now if you go through this little door right here, it's not even really a door, you can go down this spiffy little tunnel that is full of creepy writhing bears. Going to end up in another section of this. I almost feel like calling it a dungeon, even though it's technically not. It is just a catacomb. And yeah, except for the fact that all of these enemies respawn, this would be a fun place to hang out with guildmates or friends. I mean, and I guess if you don't mind the fact that you have to interrupt whatever you're doing every few minutes to kill stuff. But yeah, this is a really huge and honestly really cool bit of area that I feel like most players, even if they know about it, they forget about it. Because honestly, I pretty much had forgotten that this was down here. Until I was like, you know, I'm gonna actually run around in Duskwood for a while and see what's what. And you come up in a totally different area. So I thought that was pretty neat. And that is about it in this section of Duskwood. Well, except for Adale's stand, which is down this way, and we will get to it in just a second. Alright, this section here is Adele's stead. It used to be overrun by the Defias, and now it is overrun by Anguish spirits. Like most of Duskwood's areas, it consists of an empty barn, some dead cows. There is a worgen lurking up there, though. I see him. And with a little bit of patience, a lot of times you can actually get up there. It would be even easier If I were a different spec of rogue, I could just grappling hook my way up there, but I'm not. And I don't feel like jumping around for 10 minutes like a really, really silly person. But as you can see, you're very basic, just another little farmhouse. Definitely ruined. There is a chest in here because there are quests that will send you in this area. But yeah, just your basic little farmhouse. Now we will move on to the next area. Just east of Adelstead, you have the Vrugel Ogre Bound. Now this, there's a decent number of quests that will send you down here. They have your basic little mine. If you are a miner, it's a good spot to maybe pick up a little bit of ore. And of interest to archaeologists is this is a fossil archaeology area where you will occasionally be able to get fossil archaeology fragments, which are good for, I think, 2 different pets and a mount if you put together enough of the fossil archaeology fragments, which in fact, let me see here. I will show you the fossilized raptor. This is the mount that you can get from archaeology, the fossilized raptor. I think he's pretty cool, especially for just putting together archaeology fragments. And I have to remember what he is called, but it might just be the fossilized hatchling, which is also a mount, or not a mount, but a pet that you can get from archaeology. So if you don't have archaeology, that is a profession I really recommend to everybody, especially since it also gives you experience points as you go along. Alright, the next spot we are going to go to is the Twilight Grove. Alright, and here we are at the Twilight Grove. It is one of the places where the Night Elves planted a great tree. Not quite a world tree, but one of the great trees, and it does provide access, at least in theory, not for players, but in theory, to the Emerald Dream. It's also a place in current World of Warcraft where about the only reason you will end up here is if there's a world boss here, which doesn't happen very often, or if you are, again, an archaeologist, because you will get Night Elf archaeology fragments here. Now, this area is one of the reasons it is supposed why, even though Duskwood is under the same curse that befalls Deadwind Pass, which will be our next area that we go to, even though this place is lacking in sunlight, there is reason to believe that because of the great tree that is here and because of its access to the Emerald Dream, this is why Duskwood still teems with life. So I thought that was an interesting little factoid that I came across. Alright, now, as we leave the Twilight Grove, we will approach the Jorgen Farmstead, which is another one of the many abandoned farms in Duskwood. Just outside of the Jorgen Farmstead, you can go to the Rotting Orchard, which once used to provide almost all of the fruit for the Eastern Kingdoms from this beautiful orchard, which has now fallen to ruin and overrun by worgen, but not the same type of worgen that you are if you play as one. These are cursed and feral worgen. They are hostile to everybody. And they are a major problem that you have to deal with if you quest through Duskwood. Alright, so there's also this little mine shaft here. It is in the southeastern corner of Duskwood. It is Roland's Dune, And if you go in here, you find out that this is the place where a night elf priestess fled with the Scythe of Elune, which I do believe is part of the reason that the Worgen are under this curse. And if you would like to interact with her, you just click on this mound of dirt, and there she is. I have failed. I've failed in my duty, failed my people. The Worgen run rampant, and the scythe of my goddess is lost. The evil that I have unleashed, in whose hand does the power of my goddess granted to me now lie? By whose hand is it directed? And so, yeah, there was a whole giant quest chain that was involved with the Scythe of Elune and the Worgen, because they were pulled from the Emerald Dream and unleashed upon Duskwood. So, if you would like to go see her, she is hanging out at the backside of Roland's Doom. Just a little bit to the north of Roland's Doom, you will come across the Tranquil Garden Cemetery, a place that is anything but tranquil. There's one NPC who will not attack you, and that is Watcher Eva, although you could attack them, but you don't have to. And inside, or just outside, is the Insane Ghoul, who is holding an item for an NPC that desperately needs it, just to the north of the cemetery, and that is Blind Mary. So let's go find her hut here. But yeah, she desperately needs that item, just so that you can actually help her to move on. Like so many of the others, if you get the looking glass that the Insane Ghoul has, you can then interact with Blind Mary. So that is always something kind of fun to do if you're looking for more questing. Alright, after you leave Blind Mary's house in the Tranquil Garden Cemetery, you're going to approach Darkshire. Now, back in Classic WoW, you used to have to be very, very careful, because there was an abomination named Stitches that, unlike most enemies, actually patrolled the road. Modern WoW players don't have to be quite as afraid of him, because now, even though you can summon him, he's summoned to an instanced area that's just for you and the guards of Darkshire. But he is definitely worth mentioning, because he killed many, many a player back in Classic and Burning Crusade. Now, definitely, cleanliness is not on the mark for everyone in World of Warcraft. That is obvious from the state of this table, but you have a cute little house here. Or almost house. Little house, little barn. And also, as you come into town, the Night Watch of Darkshire are patrolling. And you notice things get a little bit more civilized looking as you come in. Now, a couple interesting things in this area. If you remember in the Westfall video, I talked about the Legend of Stalvan, which was an old vanilla WoW quest chain all about finding out what happened with the Tudor Stalvan. And even though it's not exactly the same quest as it used to be back in Classic WoW, there is a version of it still that you can do that kind of sends you all over at least in Darkshore. The old Legend of Stalvan quest used to send you literally all over the Eastern Kingdoms, but the new one doesn't. Now this is just another cute little almost house. I feel like it's a little bit more of a restaurant, considering there's no beds, and I do believe that this couple are just running basically a nice inn. I think the Legend of Stalvan quest is up this way, maybe? Yes, there he is. So if you would like to do the new Legend of Stalvon quest, you just come up here and speak to
What can I do
Tobias
for you?
Mistmantle, and he will send you off trying to find
You wouldn't want
what
to see me when I'm
happens to
angry.
his family. I'm not sure if the quest still talks about how Stalvon actually was the tutor who fell in love with his student and went a little bit crazy and killed her and her entire family, but, you know, there it is. Now, this is a decent questing hub. There are a couple recipes that you can only pick up here. Also, I love this dude just leaning up against the wall. Not exactly sure what his story is, but he definitely seems pretty darn casual. There's only a couple more things that are in this area. One is sort of a pun, and the other one has to do with something, and I will show it to you briefly, but it's part of a bigger video that I'm kind of planning. There is the Manor of the Mistmantles. Unfortunately, it is no longer occupied by them, as Stalvon completely killed them. Alright, so you go up here to the Beggar's Haunt, and I'm pretty sure this is how you summon Stitches. It's been a while since I've done this questing area, but you have Abercrombie the Hermit. Now, I don't think he will dress you too nicely.
You need
so
something?
He's not quite Abercrombie and Fitch, but he does want you to get him some supplies. And it turns out the supplies that he really wants are, I'm pretty sure, to make an abomination named Stitches. And if you leave his little Beggar's Haunt there and go back into this corner, you can see World of Warcraft's Tomb of the Unknowns. And because it's World of Warcraft, you can actually take out, he is a rare spawn, the Unknown Soldier. But I'm planning on doing a video for each continent as we go. So when I finish Eastern Kingdoms, then I'm going to do another video that is just player memorials and things like that, because I have found out just how many player memorials Blizzard has put into the game. This one, like so many, is for the Unknown Soldiers. Almost every country has it. It is for those fallen in battle, and it's just kind of a very pretty area with the Watchers standing watch over the grave and the Unknown Soldier just kneeling here and paying homage to his fallen comrades. So, I think that's kind of sweet. I'm not going to kill him. I think we're going to leave him be. He doesn't drop much in the way of loot, but he does drop some. And that is going to be about it. Now, next week, as we explore, we are going to explore Deadwind Pass, which is a cool little tiny area. It's not really a zone, but it's not really not a zone either. It is just a creepy, scary place. Not quite as scary as it used to be, but oh, this place used to terrify me. It also holds a dungeon that, well, a raid, I do believe. Let me see here. Yes, that is definitely a raid. That is a lot of people's favorite raid in the entire game, at least for a long time, and that is Karazhan. And we'll possibly go through that as well. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, even if the only thing you learned is there's a really cool hunter's pet that I wish I could show you, but I don't own yet. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you hopefully next week. Have a good one.